Content warning for movie spoilers, profanity, horror, violence, gore, and sexual themes. And if you're not so much into the horror, future stories without the horror and gore are also on the way for 2026. I promise. Welcome to Discount Storytime, where each week we present a humorous short story to keep you entertained. This week's story is an homage to the 80s horror classic Killer Clowns from Outer Space. It also had inspiration from the Canadian horror comedy Slaxx, X-L-A-X-X. And a link to information to both those movies is in the show notes, as well as a link to the Werewolf Ambulance podcast where they discuss each of those movies. I'll put those links in the show notes as well. Additionally, we at Discount Storytime are looking for a sponsor, and after doing some market research, found that up to 60% of our audience uses indoor plumbing. So it only makes sense that Kohler sponsors us. So we've added in a sample commercial to show Kohler what Discount Storytime can do for them. Enjoy! Well, look, it's our very own Grandpa Old-Timey.
Hello, Ken.
Well, hello, Grandpa Old-Timey. What the heck happened? You look like you've been cut to ribbons.
I took a shower, and my shower head sprays out rusty nails and broken glass.
Are you using a Kohler shower head?
No. Does that matter?
Silly Grandpa Old-Timey. It matters a lot. You see, unlike other shower heads, I assume, Kohler shower heads are designed to spray water, and Kohler shower heads only spray the minimum amount of rusty nails and broken glass required by local laws. Again, I assume.
Wow, I didn't know that. I want to go buy a Kohler shower head today.
Okay, great, but Grandpa Old-Timey, a lot of your cuts look badly infected. How about we get you some medical care first?
No, I said I want a Kohler shower head now, goddammit. How about this? How about I kick your ass? Get over here! Get over here!
Dear Kohler Company's marketing department, we realize you're not our sponsor yet, but this ad is just a small taste of the wonderful advertising opportunities we can provide you here at Discount Storytime. Just saying. Our email is listed in the show notes.
In the small town of Crescent Cove, the heat of summer gave way to fall. As the days cooled, the leaves on the trees changed color. Pumpkin spice lattes and casseroles replaced iced coffee and hot dogs. Crescent Cove didn't have a shopping mall, but Meijer's department store came pretty darn close and was the major retail hub for the community. And inside the store's loading dock, our story begins. Jean and Simon, the two stockroom employees, sat at Jean's small, cluttered desk.
And that's where babies come from. Nobody explained that to you before?
Jean asked while putting away a human anatomy chart. Simon shook his head. Nope, thanks. And speaking of deliveries, see what I did there? The two men laughed. But really, where are those delivery trucks? Jean shrugged his shoulders.
I don't know, but this is getting close. Maybe we'll have to... Hey, maybe that's the delivery now.
Simon opened the door in the delivery bay, and in walked a young man in a delivery uniform.
Hey, guys!
It's Exposition Jim, the men cheered. Did you bring merchandise? Exposition Jim smiled wide and pearly white teeth sparkled.
Nah, you goofballs! I work for Exposition Express, and it looks like... He checked his clipboard. Just one today. Okay, said Gene, signing the clipboard. What do you have?
Exposition Jim put one leg up on a box as the others gathered round.
As you know, this is the town of Crescent Cove, and we are standing in the loading bay of Mariah's department store. And what do you know if the weather isn't getting chillier? Why, I think fall's just around here. And fall means one thing at Mariah's department store.
Fallapalooza's tomorrow!
They all cheered.
That's right, continued Exposition Jim. Mariah's department store celebration of fall fashions with discounts and store-wide events. But sadly, this year's Fallapalooza may not happen because of supply chain shortages. Why, the fall line of merchandise hasn't even arrived. Mr. Mooney, the store manager, is hoping it arrives today, but there ain't nothing yet. But hot damn if it does, because he's got store staff willing to work through the night so Fallapalooza can happen for all the nice Crescent Cove residents.
Gene and Simon thanked Exposition Jim, and he flew off on his way to deliver another exposition, probably a Wuthering Heights fanfic or some bullshit. The two men waited and waited.
Want to take a break?
Asked Gene.
Sure. That seems like the only way to get this plot moving.
And so, with not much to do, and this plot lagging, they ambled out of the loading bay for coffee and a snack. Outside the loading bay, a large metal crate fell from the sky and crashed on the truck ramp. Initially, red hot from atmospheric entry, it cooled quickly. The metal crate shone in the midday sun. Then another crate, then another, until 20 large metal crates sat waiting. Gene and Simon's jaws dropped when they saw all the crates.
Gene scratched his head. What the hell? The delivery drivers just dumped those crates and left?
He checked his desk.
They didn't leave a packing list or anything. Seriously?
Simon sighed.
They must have been pressed for time, but still they could have come and got us. Well, let's get to it.
He hopped down and checked the crate's nearest bizarre labels.
What's with all this squiggly writing?
Must be European. Let's get this stuff loaded on the carts and figure the rest out later.
And so, Gene and Simon spent a busy afternoon bringing in all the merchandise and loading it onto carts. There were brightly colored pants, shirts, jumpsuits, beanies, spinning bow ties, suspenders, and on and on. While unloading the shoes, Simon saw a pair of large red shoes he really liked, and they looked really expensive. Simon figured with so much merchandise arriving at one time and no packing list, the store wouldn't miss one pair of shoes. So when nobody was looking, Simon hid the large red shoes behind the dumpster. With every single cart overflowing with the new fall line of clothes, and exhausted, Gene and Simon called it a day and left. But a little later, Simon drove back and grabbed the large red shoes from behind the dumpster.
The perfect crime,
Simon muttered as he drove home. At 9 o'clock that night, Meyer's department store shut down for the day, and a group of employees milled around the stockroom looking at the fall inventory.
This is the fall lineup?
Asked Ray, a tall young man with sandy brown hair, as he held up a brightly colored polka dot jumpsuit.
It doesn't look very fall to me. And putting it all up? How do we get it all up in one night?
His equally tall girlfriend, Joylene, with dark hair and large brown eyes, said, "Oh, honey, I know you can get it up in one night." Mr. Mooney, the store manager, was a large, imposing man in a short-sleeved dress shirt and a loosened necktie. He marched into the storeroom and barked,
"Knock it off! You're not getting paid to canoodle."
At the word canoodle, Ray and Joylene laughingly unwound from each other. Mr. Mooney clapped his hands.
"All right, everybody, listen up. You're not getting paid to dilly-dally. We have a lot, and I mean a lot, of work to do tonight, so no messing around. You hear me? And no pranks. We don't have time for your nonsense."
At this, the entire group looked at the Tetrazzini brothers, Paul and Rich. They replied with mock indignation.
Us? What?
Mr. Mooney continued.
I'm assigning your departments to get this inventory out for display. Don't worry about the storeroom tonight. I'll have Jean and Simon organize it in the morning. Deb, I want you putting up women's wear. Ray, you handle menswear. For women's intimates.
When they heard women's intimates, both Joylene and the Tetrazzini brothers raised their hands and shouted, Me, me, me! Mr. Mooney rolled his eyes.
Joylene, you do that, but don't take all night. When you're done, help Deb.
Joylene nodded her head, then playfully stuck her tongue out at the dejected brothers. Pointing to the brothers, Mr. Mooney said,
You two numbskulls are going to help Mike get the Fallapalooza decorations up, and since between the three of you, he's the only one with brains, Mike is in charge.
Yes, sir, said Mike, standing very close to Deb.
Questions? Nope. Then get to work. You're not getting paid to stand around. I'll start on the children's section.
Mr. Mooney huffed away. The brothers walked up to Mike and saluted.
Sir, yes, sir.
Mike shook his head.
Well, knock it off. He put me in charge only because I don't goof off all the time. Working with you two is like herding cats.
Rich laughed.
Because you're too busy kissing up to him.
How's your day, Mr. Mooney?
Can I help with that, Mr. Mooney? Can I wash your car, Mr. Mooney?
Mike shook his head, already exasperated.
Okay, that's enough, bozo. Let's dig out the Fallapalooza decorations and get to work.
Working with the Tetrazzini brothers was like herding lampshades. As soon as Mr. Mooney left, Ray and Joylene were back on each other like hormone-soaked magnets. Deb walked up to the coiled couple, cleared her throat loudly, several times before they noticed. "We're busy, Deb," purred Joylene. Deb gently took Joylene's arm and pulled her along.
Come on, Joylene. We have work to do. You can canoodle later.
Joylene whispered and pointed to Mike. "Speaking of canoodling," Deb looked down.
He's cute, but I don't date coworkers. Not anymore.
Joylene looked around and then waved at the security camera. "Hi, Dave. Is it weird knowing your ex-boyfriend is in the security booth watching you all day? Probably spanking."
No! And quiet down. Nobody's supposed to know we dated, and Dave's fine. We're just friends, that's all.
Joylene asked. "Does Dave know that?" Meanwhile, Dave, the security guard, sat in the security office and watched the bank of security cameras as Deb pushed her cart out onto the sales floor. When Simon arrived home, he ate a frozen dinner, opened a tab cola, and looked over the large red shoes. No brand name, labels, or shoe size. "So weird," he muttered and pulled them onto his feet. "Comfortable, though." He stood up, and the shoes hugged his feet. "A bit tight, but the price was right." A sudden flash of white-hot pain flashed as the shoes crushed his foot bones. Simon fell back into his chair. "What the hell? Ow!" He reached down to take the shoes off, but they wouldn't budge. Instead, sharp teeth slid out of the shoe top and gnawed onto his ankles. The shoe tongue slurped up the blood running down his feet. Simon tried to pull the shoes off and grabbed at the laces, but the aglets, those little plastic tippy things, were spikes that flew into his eyeballs. Simon screamed out, "Ow! What the fuck? Why gouge my eyeballs? They have nothing to do with shoes. That seems excessive." Then the shoes started reeling in his eyes, forcing his body to contort as his head pulled to his feet. "Really? Chewing off my feet would have been plenty disgusting," he yelled while trying to get free. As his head and feet drew closer, his spinal column snapped piece by piece. All the while, Simon screamed out, "Ah! This is the problem with horror these days. Ah! It's less about the psychological tension. Ah! Just cheap excuses to berate senseless violence." His screams were horrible. When his head was near his feet, the shoes flew apart in different directions, pulling his head and legs apart, but not before Simon spoke his last words. "This is absolute gratuitous slop." Joylene put up the displays of women's intimates and found something irresistible. Brightly colored polka dot bloomers with a matching bra and lace clown collar. She looked over at Ray putting together a menswear display and thought, "This will blow Ray's mind." She hid the garments behind her back, sashayed to Ray, and whispered in his ear, "The woman's room in 10 minutes, lover boy." In the locked woman's room, Joylene quickly changed into the bra, bloomers, and clown collar. She folded her clothes and tucked them into a locker, then checked herself in the mirror. This getup was both silly and sexy, and Joylene couldn't suppress a giggle. With a few minutes left, Joylene fixed her hair when the collar swung her forward into the mirror. Her head smashed the glass and stars spun. "What the hell? Good thing this didn't fling me backwards into a bathroom stall door." Then the collar swung her backwards, smashing the back of her head into a bathroom stall door, which spun open. "Help! I don't want to get my hair wet," she cried weakly as the bloomers and bra pushed her backwards into the stall, causing her to lose her balance and fall backwards with her hair dipping into the unflushed toilet. "God damn it! That wasn't necessary." She grabbed at the stall sides to pull herself free, but it was in vain as the collar began to spin. Around and around the lace and polka dots went faster and faster. "At least I have my thumbs. My beautiful thumbs will save me." She wedged her thumbs between the spinning collar and her neck, only to pull back bleeding nubs where her thumbs used to be. "Fuck. Well, this is better than being suspended upside down." The bloomers pulled her upwards, suspending her upside down above the toilet. "Are you kidding me?" Blood poured from her neck and up her face and into her mouth and nose as the spinning collar blade cut into her deeper and deeper. Her attempt at screams turned to feeble gurgles as she felt the whirling dervish cut into her vocal cords. She hung suspended upside down and helpless above the toilet. Her mind flashed to images of high school kids getting swirlies and her father and uncle quartering a deer. Something snapped in her neck, and her head fell into the toilet bowl. After the splash, her head looked upwards for just a second, long enough to see her own decapitated body floating above her, raining down blood. "Well, this is bullshit," she thought. Then darkness. The stall door squeaked closed just before Ray knocked on the bathroom door. "Hello? Is anyone here?" Ray waited a moment, then stepped inside the bathroom. "Joylene, are you here?" Ray again waited for a reply, but found silence. He walked by each stall door, looking underneath and finding nobody. "Ha! She must have left." Disappointed, Ray shrugged his shoulders and returned to work. Back in the store, Mike and the Tetrazzini brothers hung decorations when the store speakers went out. "Huh, that's weird. I'll go check on it," said Paul. Mike told him to stay put, but Paul was already gone. Mike sighed, but couldn't help but smirk. Those wacky Tetrazzini brothers, working with them was like herding waffle irons. A little while later, the store speakers came on, but it was very different music. Mike and Rich laughed. Mike tried to keep the Tetrazzini brothers in line, but working with them was like herding marmosets. A furious Mr. Rooney flew around the corner and glared at Mike and Rich. "What the hell is that noise? Put the company music back on right now, damn it!" Rich Tetrazzini was about to make a smart aleck response, but Mike nudged him and shook his head. For once, thankfully, Rich got the hint and simply said, "Yes, sir," and left to change the music back. Mr. Mooney glared at Mike and then huffed.
You gotta be firm with these two. Working with them is like herding spark plugs to a 1958 Plymouth Fury.
Mike nodded in agreement. It was so true.
And have you seen Joylene? The women's intimate section hasn't even been started.
Just then, Deb walked up and asked,
I'm sorry to interrupt, but have either of you seen Joylene? She was supposed to help me when she was done with the women's intimates.
The music switched back to the company tripe and the Tetrazzini brothers returned.
What? Women's intimates?
We can work on that section. Besides, we're pretty much done with the decorations. They all looked at Mike and he nodded.
Yeah, believe it or not, these two were a big help in getting all the decorations done. Usually working with the Tetrazzini brothers is like
hurting the leaves of a big-nut hickory tree.
And we'll do a good job. At least let us work until Joylene is found. Please, begged the Tetrazzini brothers. Mr. Mooney sighed. He knew he didn't have a choice.
Fine, but only until Joylene can take over. And Deb, your job is to find her ASAP. Start by finding Ray. Those two are never far apart. Probably playing grab-ass right now.
Yes, sir, said Deb. In the security office, Dave, the security guard, watched the others and sipped his coffee with a splash of Bailey's to keep out the chill, of course. On the bank of monitors, his eyes followed Deb, who was looking for someone or something. He watched as she went up to Mike, Mr. Mooney, and the nettlesome Tetrazzini brothers. Why couldn't those two find a different job? Maybe buy an ice cream truck or something. Trying to keep track of them was like trying to keep track of the migration patterns of the lunar pike-gill fish. On the small bank of screens, Deb went to Ray in the menswear department. It was unusual to see Ray without Joylene nearby. Maybe they broke up. Dave knew a thing or two about breaking up. He studied Deb's face and turned up his cassette player, which crooned Poison's 1988 power ballad, Every Rose Has Its Thorn. Whatever Deb had asked Ray about, he shook his head no and went back to putting away men's hats. As Deb walked off, Ray picked up a beanie hat with a propeller from the cart and studied it. Dave stopped. The beanie didn't look right. He wasn't sure why, but something seemed off. Ray looked to see if anyone was watching him. Dave muttered, "You are on security footage, dumbass." Ray put on the beanie and spun the propeller. It spun faster than one would expect. Dave's stomach twisted, but again, he wasn't sure why. Dave poured more Baileys into his coffee, and when he looked back on the screen, the beanie propeller's blades were much larger than before, by a few feet. Also, Ray stood oddly. He was squatting almost, as if he was trying to push the beanie up, or the beanie was pushing him down. The blade spun faster and faster, and Ray's head and neck were being pushed down into his body. What the hell was this? The clothes and accessories on the surrounding shelves began fluttering away as if next to a helicopter. But this helicopter was going down, not up. The mug of coffee fell out of Dave's hands when he saw it. The beanie jammed Ray's head into his body, and his spine thrust out of his backside, through his pants, and into the floor. What the fuck? Dave began to leave his office when he realized it. That simply couldn't be. It was... Every year, the Tetrazzini brothers pull bigger and bigger pranks. Dave burst out laughing. Of course! And this year, they got Ray to go along with the prank. Holy crap, that looked real. How did they do that? Dave cleaned up the spilt coffee and chuckled over his own gullibility. Then Deb and Mike walked into the security office, and Deb asked, "Have you seen Joylene on the cameras?" Dave poured another coffee. "Not for a while. Was she in on it too?"
In on what?
asked Mike. "The gag." Deb and Mike stared blankly. "The gag with Ray? I don't know how they made it look so real. Impressive, but in poor taste, if you ask me. Mooney's gonna have their asses." Dave replayed the security footage, and Mike pointed at the current screen.
Wait, stop, look!
Dave zoomed in on a nearby jester cap. The cap crawled across the floor to Ray. Then it wrapped around the exposed spine and began sucking on the loose nerves. Dave paled. This isn't a prank, is it? Deb and Mike shook their heads. Deb, Mike, and Dave ran towards the hats section and passed by women's intimates. Those wacky Tetrazzini brothers were dancing with bras and panties on their heads. Dave barked, "Hey, dum-dums, take those off and come with us." The brothers began to protest, but Mike shouts,
Now, goddammit!
"What's going on?" asked Rich. Mike snapped,
No time, just come with us.
When the group made it to the hats section, all the new hats were covering and slurping on a skeleton that was once Ray. Then Rich screamed and pointed at the infant section. Mr. Mooney's body quivered inside a crib as he stared out with dull eyes. A pack of brightly colored onesies glistened with fresh blood as they fed on their prey. Blood trickled out between the crib slats and onto the floor. "What are those children's clothes doing?" asked Dave. Deb said, "Not clothes! Some kind of animals for another world." Dave turned to the others. "We can't let these things get out. Who has the store keys?" They all turned to look at Mr. Mooney. Dave sighed. "Okay, I'm going to get the keys and lock myself in the security office and keep a lookout for you while you leave and get help." Deb shook her head. "Dave, no!" "Quiet. Don't make a sound." Dave was already halfway to the bloody crib. As he snuck up to the crib, he could hear the onesies gnawing on bone, and he fought to keep from throwing up. Carefully, Dave knelt down and put his hand through the crib slats. Warm blood slid onto his shirt cuff. Fortunately, Mr. Mooney's right pants pocket was within reach. He felt inside. Nothing. Dave started removing his arm when a onesie clamped onto his forearm and bit down, biting through skin. Dave screamed in agony and tried pulling his arm out, but the onesie kept his wrist from pulling back through the slats. He tried pulling harder, but the movement caught the attention of the other killer onesies, who crawled towards him. Then Dave heard screams and looked behind him. Killer clothes, brightly colored pants, shirts, jumpsuits, beanies, and on, had the entire group surrounded. They slowly moved in. Mike and the Tetrazzini brothers pushed Deb to the center, and the three faced outward with their fists up. Although it would be certainly hopeless, it was a brave last gesture. A onesie slipped through the crab slats and onto Dave's shoulder, taking a large bite. He yelped in white-hot pain. It would only be a moment left before he started bleeding out. It was over. The killer clothes had won. Dave started to laugh. He was going to die from a murderous infant onesie. He did not have that on his bingo card for the day. The store speakers went quiet. Dave began feeling lightheaded. Then the music switched.
Starting holiday music loop.
The Tetrazzini brothers balked. "What? It's only October!" Deb shouted, "Really? That's your concern?" Then the holiday music started up. Mike yelled,
I don't want to die listening to Mariah Carey.
Then the killer clothes did something unexpected. They quivered.
Look at what Mariah Carey's doing to them.
The killer clothes vibrated in visible pain, unlike the quiet pain the rest of us endure. Then the killer clothes, unable to take it anymore, burst apart and shot blood and thread over everything. Deb shouted, "That did it! That repugnant song saved us! Let's get out of here!" Wasting no time, they ran out of Meyer's department store into the morning sun and then stopped cold. A shower of metal crates by the thousands were falling to earth. Mike put his hand around Deb and said,
We're gonna need a bigger Mariah.
Next week's episode is an end-of-the-year compilation of discount ideas. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss it. And to all of our listeners, I want to wish happy holidays to you and to the ones you love. Thank you for listening, and until next time, be sure to play nice with others, be super duper kind to yourself, and as always, remember to laugh. Bye! This episode was narrated by Larry Little, written and produced by Ken McCann. This is a Discount Storytime production.